Hi, it's Shannon here from houseimprovements.com, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to waterproof the shower using the Schluter Kerdi-Board system. Now, just to get it out of the way right from the start, we aren't sponsored by this company. They haven't sent us any product, any of that stuff. We have purchased all these products that you're going to see in the video, so there's no affiliation with them at all. We will have a link though in the description if you want to check out these products online or anything like that. So like I said, we're going to use this product, which is basically a fabric surface. I think they call it a weave if I'm not mistaken, on a styrofoam backing. And this product can be directly mounted right to the framing that you already have. In this case we've got half-inch Kerdi-Board, and it can span as far as 16-inch centers on your framing. So for the most part it's going to fit to any framing that you're going to have in your shower already existing. The nice thing about this product is once it's on the wall and the seams are sealed, it's completely waterproof. It's there's nothing here for mold to grow on or anything like that. It's really lightweight, so it's easy to carry around compared to some other products like if you're going to use a cement board backer, that sort of thing. Super easy to cut again. This cuts like drywall, but it's lighter than drywall, so it is really user friendly. So basically the product, you can buy it in different ways. You can buy it in 4x8 sheets, generally is the most common way, or you can buy it with a 4x8 sheet cut in thirds, so 32 by 48 inches as well, which makes it a lot easier for transporting if you're buying it down at your local big box store or something. There's a lot of little accessories too that goes along with this entire system. One of which is this niche product. So this is a niche that would go in your wall, for your shampoo, soaps, those sorts of things. Can be installed vertically or horizontally. I think there's 3 or 4 different sizes. We're using the largest size they have at this time. And the bigger ones that are rectangular come with this shelf item. So if you were installing it vertically and you wanted to have it with a shelf in it, it comes with the piece already made up to use. Okay. I'm actually installing this one horizontally, so we're not going to be using the shelf. There's really no need for it, and I'm going to be installing it in the back wall of the shower. So along with that, you're going to have special fasteners, and we're going to get to all this obviously during the install. I just want to kind of go through them. So you're going to have a washer with a I'm not sure if these are galvanized or maybe stainless. I'm assuming they're probably stainless. I've never really looked that close at them. Screws, and that's what holds the product to the wall. There's different seals in that you can get. This one's goes around the hole where the shower valve is if you're using a single valve like that. There are small ones that you can put around your tub spouts, shower heads, that sort of thing. Anywhere there's a protrusion if you feel you need it. And then, I didn't bring the box in here. There's this same fabric right here in a band, Kerdi band, and that's what we're going to seal all the joints and everything with. It just comes in a roll, so you'll see that as we go get into the video, into that part. Okay, so we've got those products. Those are the basic things you're going to need to do this. As far as cutting, really all you need is a utility knife with a sharp blade in it. That'll make 99% of the cuts you need to make. If you wanted to, you could have a hole saw for cutting out around the shower valves and the pipes and those sorts of things, but honestly it's not really necessary that those holes are perfect if you're using these other seals afterwards anyways. Okay, I think that's the main majority of what I've got to talk about. I was just going to show you, we will cut some of this product, but I just wanted to show you just how easy this is to cut. So another nice feature it has is it's got all these 1 centimeter squares on here. So you can use that a little bit when you're cutting and marking out and that sort of thing. And even when you're doing your tile, you will have those series of lines on the wall, and if you line everything up right, you could use them for tiling. I generally find that I probably don't take enough care in making sure the sheet is completely level in the beginning. So I find usually these lines aren't level for me for my tile layout, but they still do work as a reference. But so cutting this product, you could use a straight edge or just freehand or whatever. I'm just going to cut down here on the floor if the camera can get that, just so I don't cut my leg. So you'd measure whatever you want to do, and just like drywall, really, as long as you get cut through the first surface, like that, it will just it'll just snap. If I would have cut a little further, it breaks even easier than that. But it'll snap like that, and then you can just cut the back off. Now, it is good enough that you can, I think, probably pretty much cut right through it with a couple passes, if you prefer that. And like I said, it's just foam center, and it basically weighs nothing. So, but once it's on the wall and you've got your tiles on, it's very strong and completely waterproof. Okay, so I want to start out with the niche, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Normally, if you're doing a niche, it maybe wouldn't be on an exterior wall like we have here. This is an exterior wall, so I've got my vapor barrier going back into the opening. Everything's sealed. So I don't want to take any chance of cutting that with the knife, because normally what you would do is put your big sheet, which is over here against the wall. You probably can't see it, but it spans wall to wall here, and it's 4 feet high. You'd fasten that on, making note of where your opening is for the niche. But you'd fasten that on, you'd have it on the wall. Let's just do this quickly. So here's our piece. We would have fastened it. We would have fastened it onto the wall, made a bit of a reference as to where the niche opening was in the wall, and then you take your niche, line it up with your reference marks, trace around it, and just simply cut it out with a knife. So you trace around it, cut this piece out, and then turn the niche back around and insert it into the hole. Okay? So in our case, I can't do that because I'd for sure cut the vapor barrier, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to do it just a little bit different. Still going to be fairly easy, I think. I haven't actually done it this way before, but I think this is going to work out all right. We're going to basically mount the niche in here, get it all level and everything centered up where we want it, get some measurements, transfer them to that piece, cut it out, and hopefully it fits. So like I said, this is a bit of an experiment on my part. There's no reason it shouldn't work, but I don't want to take the risk of cutting the vapor barrier here. So if you didn't have a niche at all, you'd obviously just take that board, cut it to length, put it on the wall, and start screwing it on. We're going to deal with the niche first. A lot of times you're going to see these niches more likely in the end wall, in a stud cavity, and probably vertical, or they might be smaller than this even. But like I said, we're going to do this one here horizontally. So yeah, that should work. Actually, I just thought of something that's probably easier. If I just set it in here where I know it needs to be, and I'll level it up, I'll get a reference mark, a couple reference marks, and then I will take the niche out of the wall, lay it on the product, and cut it out. But it'll just have to be on the floor. That probably will be just as easy. So we'll cut away here. I'll take some measurements. We'll probably have to move the camera back a bit to have the room in here to do it, and then I'll show you how I cut it out. Okay, so I got my reference marks, and I've laid the niche in position where I want it, and I'm just gonna simply cut with my knife around it, around the perimeter. I'm holding the niche obviously so it doesn't slide. And also I don't want to lean right here because I might damage the niche. It doesn't have as much strength right there as it does on the edge. Okay, I might have to do some fine tuning on that. I'll just stand this up. I might not have got right to the corners. Maybe I have. It's a little hard to see my cut line here the way I'm doing this. Okay, so we've got our spot here that the niche should fit. Okay, so I've cut the niche out. One thing though that I thought of while I was cutting that I didn't mention is it's important to make sure that the plane of the face of all your framing is, I would say, within 1/8 of an inch. So if you just use a straight edge, just put it on there and make sure that everything's pretty flat to each other. Because this is just a foam board, you don't want any too big of humps anywhere, because it deflects the board a little bit, and then you've got an uneven surface for putting your tile on, and if you're using bigger tile it can give you some problems. So I would say as long as everything's within an eighth of an inch, should be good. If it isn't, let's say you had a bit of a crown here in this stud, you'd mark it out ahead of time and maybe use a power plane or something like that to change it. If it's really severe, you might have to do some shimming, that sort of thing, but if everything's within 1/8 of an inch, you should be okay. Okay, so I'm going to take this board, I'm going to get it roughly into place and tack it, and then we'll just double check that that niche fits in fine, because I may have to do a little fine tuning. This product is going to sit on top of the lip of the tub. You don't want it to sit down here, because if it sits down here, you're going to have to make the board kick out or notch the back, which is going to leave it very little strength. So it sits right on top that ledge, and we'll seal that up afterwards, as you'll see later. Okay, so just take your product, get it roughly in place. You can see, obviously, you need to have your framing set out ahead of time if you do have a niche, so that there's wood at the joint all the way around, so that you can get it all secured in there. I'm just going to throw a couple of fasteners in just to get it kind of held there for a minute. I'd say honestly the only thing about this system I don't like is that they use Phillips head screws on their screws. But I guess that's pretty minor otherwise. So I will just get probably one here, will hold it good enough to try. Okay. Get it sitting in there, check it, make sure it's level, and it is, so that worked out fine. Okay, so we've got it in there level. These fasteners, basically they recommend them on every stud, like every 16-inch stud, and no more than 12 inches spaced apart. And then on places like this where you've got a seam between like the niche or another panel or whatever, you can place the fastener right on the seam. That way you don't need a fastener on each side of the seam. So for right now, I'm just going to get enough fasteners in it just to kind of hold it up there. I'll maybe get a few of these prepped up. With the fasteners, and I don't think you're going to be able to see it from that angle, we'll get a better shot at it from the side when I do this end. You want the fastener to snug up and then just indent into the product a little bit so it doesn't stay proud of the surface. Okay, so So you obviously would put more fasteners than that. I'm just kind of getting it held in place so that we can move on. Now we've got this piece here above the window to do, or below the window I mean. So I've already got it roughly cut to height, and I've just got to mark out and cut out the window. So again, it's really easy to use. Just use a marker to write on it easily. Get a few marks on it and you should be good. And with all those lines on there, you kind of have a pretty good guide most times for your cuts. Hardly even need a straight edge. Now that I said that, I'll get it up there and it probably won't fit. Okay, it's a little tight right here. I'm just going to give it a little trim. Now if this was hardy backer or something like that, we'd be hauling it right back outside to cut with a special saw and everything. For this we can just simply make adjustments right in the room without too much trouble. That's better. So a few fasteners in that. And I'll maybe go ahead and I'll put all the fasteners in and we'll come back and we'll start that other wall. Okay, so we cut away there, just you don't need to see me putting a million screws in, but so we've got our screws spaced no more than 12 inches apart, and they're 16 inches on center where the main studs are. We went around the perimeter here. This is the joint right here between the niche and the Kerdi-Board. I don't know if you can see it. So we put our fasteners in there and I got that all secured. And while we were off camera, I just did this end wall too, because we're going to focus on doing this end with the faucet and everything in it. Okay, so for this end, like I said, I think earlier, you could use a hole saw to make these cuts. Really not necessary. Just mark out your centers, transfer it to your Kerdi-Board here, draw the appropriate marks that you need, and you can just easily cut that with your knife. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll just kind of move it here so I don't cut anything behind it. It doesn't have to be fancy. Actually, I'll cut this one out first. My arm in the way. Be easier if I lay it down. I thought I could just leave it standing so you guys could see easier, but it'll be much easier to cut down here. Is that okay? And you can see, obviously, I've got the blade sticking out further than normal, so you just need to be cautious of that in case it snaps off. You don't want to cut your arm off. Okay, so we've got that one. And maybe have this one. I don't know if I actually showed you the back side. So the back side has the same fleece on it, just doesn't have all the marks on it. Okay, so we'll give that a little try, see how that fits. So I've obviously got my plumbing all ready to go back there. time. Okay, so we got a good dry fit. Got a pretty good cut there. I'll maybe just trim that a little bit. I could trim it right in place, but I'll maybe just pull it off and give it a trim. And then it's ready for screws. Okay, so we got that fitting there. Now because my framing behind here is a little irregular, you know, around the valve, I marked a couple of these spots just so I know where I can put a screw and make sure it hits the wood. So I talked earlier, do you have the right angle to kind of see that that caves in just a little bit? Okay, so yeah, you want all your screws to be sunk in, you know, a good 1/16 to maybe 1/8 of an inch at the most. That's what I didn't want to do. That wasn't one of my spots. Right here is where I want. It'll get sealed up when we do the bottom, so. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and screw the rest of this off, put in that little piece up there, and then we're ready to talk about waterproofing. Okay, so what I usually like to do is pre-cut all my pieces. This is the product here. So you'll buy this Kerdi-Band, which is the same fleece fabric as what's on here. Buy a roll of it like this, and you just cut it up into what you need. So I like to pre-cut all my pieces. So we're going to need a piece that goes around the base here, all the way around the tub. It could be 3 pieces, 1 piece, whatever you want. We need a piece to go up each corner. We need a piece on any seam. There's seams around here. And then we also need just some little squares to do every one of these screws. But, well, this will get covered, but any of the screws out in the field that need to be covered. Okay, so just so my pieces are all cut and my mortar's not sitting here drying out while I'm measuring and cutting pieces. We've also removed our scutcheon guard there, and this will be ready to go in as well, our seal. Now when we come back, one of the first things we're going to do, I always like to do the bottom first, and I'm going to use this, what do they call this, Kerdi-Fix. It's basically, I don't know if it's silicone, I'm not even sure what it is. It's a caulking product, and we're going to use it to fill this space between the bottom of the board and the top of the tub, because in most instances you're going to have about I don't know, maybe a 1/4 inch or a 1/8 inch space from the face of this ledge of the tub here to the face of the Kerdi-Band, or Kerdi-Board, I mean. So we've got to kind of basically goop that all in there just to take up that space, and then we're going to apply mortar and Kerdi-Band over top of it, and that's just to get the seal down here. Okay, but I won't do that till we come back in. We're going to go out to the garage and mix up some mortar. Schluter's recommendation is non-modified mortar when you're attaching the Kerdi-Band to the Kerdi-Board. Okay, so non-modified, and actually I'm not using it, but they do have their own mortars now. For the long time with their systems, because they're very specific, people really struggled with what mortar to use for the right application, and actually Schluter does have their own sets of mortars now that backs up their warranty, where they didn't have it before. I'm not using that just because of availability. I didn't have a chance to get any, but I'm going to use just a regular non-modified mortar. What's the code? It has to meet the ANSI 118.1, I think. I forget. If you look in the Schluter handbook, you'll see what they need. But as long as it's basically a good quality non-modified mortar, you should be good. Okay, so like I said, you need to have your right kind of mortar. Again, we're not sponsored by Mapei, but we're using their Kerdi-Bond. It's a non-modified mortar, so we're good to go with that. Whenever mixing mortar, you always want to have your water in the pail first. And I don't like to mix a whole bunch of this at a time, just in case there's some kind of issue. So I'll mix enough that will keep me going for a little bit, and then if I have to mix more, I mix more. So just follow the directions on your bag for your product. You want it to be able to not fall off your trowel, but flow fairly good. Yeah, so you want it to be able to just kind of drop off. You don't want it running off the trowel. That's pretty good, and it's going to sit here and slate for a few minutes. Just basically cure up, and then we're going to give it another little mix. Usually let it sit for about 5 minutes. Give it another mix for a minute or so, and then it's good to go. Okay, so this is sat about 5 minutes. We'll give it a quick little mix. Should be good. And we'll run back in and start putting some of this Kerdi-Band on. Okay, so we've mixed our mortar, and we're back here in the bathroom. Now, where I like to start is at the bottom. And we just need to get a seal here. So I've got masking tape protecting the tub. We're going to basically fill this void with this caulking. And it's kind of a messy, slobbery job, but we're going to fill this up. And then we're going to add the mortar above and get our Kerdi-Band in place. So it just takes an incredible amount of this product. And I'm just gonna kind of squeeze it in there. It's basically just a stiff caulking, really, from all I can tell. I've often wondered about using just thin set to honestly fill in this bottom thing, but I think you probably could. I just don't know that it would bond to the tub edge very well. You might have troubles down the road, I don't know. This is what Sluter recommends, is their Kerdi Fix. Okay, so we're just kind of getting it on there to take up that gap. And I usually I go all the way around, but just for the length of the video, to keep it under control, I'm just going to go part way here. I won't need quite as much on the back. This back flange is a little bit thicker. So you can see why I've got the tape there to basically keep from getting this on everything. I think that's going to be far enough for where I want it to go. And just since I've got this going, like I said before, you can buy one of those, like a small seal to go around here, like this one for up there. I usually, because you've got this going, I usually just use this stuff. Squirt some around in there. Seal that all up. And quite honestly, I don't usually even do anything around the shower head. It's high enough up there. If there's any amount of moisture getting in there, then you've probably got different problems. So just seal that hole around there. Like so. Okay, so we've got that. Now we've got our mortar. And I'm going to get some on the wall. It's kind of a tight place to work. Now this band, I don't know what that is. Is that 4 inches, 5 inches? It's 5 inches, so we need to get, say 5.5 inches even of mortar up on the wall there. And then we're going to comb it in with our notch trowel. So I just want to get some in there and kind of get it embedded into the fleece. And I'm not worrying about if I get it down on this stuff that I just put on, this Kerdi Fix stuff. But I definitely want to make sure I'm getting it into the fleece, so I'm making sure it's worked into that. We'll worry about making it look pretty here in a minute. Right around the corner. Okay, like so. And then you take the trowel. I forget what they recommend. What is it? Basically they have their own trowel, and then they have a recommendation on another one for V-notch. I think it's might be 1/4 inch by 3/16. I just kind of forget now. This one's really close to that. This is, as you can see, I got a nice shiny new one. I figured my other one looked way too ugly I might be embarrassed to show you that that's what I usually use. So I got a new one just for you guys. And we're just getting some notches in there. I always find it kind of awkward working in these little items. Get it all going the same direction. I've also got the plastic liner that came on the tub still on, just for the fact that during the tiling process you're probably going to drip some stuff on it and everything, so it kind of protects the tub. So now we can take our fleece. There's really no front or back side to it. Just put it on to the bottom edge of the tub. Keep it within where your tile is going to be, so it doesn't show, obviously. Push it right back in the corner. Like so. And I think I'm going to use this little guy here. It's just more manageable. And you just want to basically work all the air out and the excess mortar all the way out, all the way around. Keeping the Kerdi band flat and straight, so we hopefully don't get too many wrinkles. Any of the excess that's kind of an awkward spot here, any of the excess mortar, just wipe it back in your bucket. Get it nice and flat and straight. And right back nicely into the corner too. Don't leave your corner rounded if you can help it. It'll just make your life tiling a lot easier. Get all your edges down tight. Pushing it back in the corner there. Now I think this corner, yeah, I don't have any. You want to get a good 90% coverage on the back of this, so every now and again just peel it back to double check. We've definitely got that. Except for right on this corner. And anywhere where you come across two pieces of Kerdi band, you want to lap them by 2 inches. And I usually have a bucket and a sponge close by, just to smooth it up a little bit. Makes it a lot nicer when you're tiling if you don't have big lumps of excess mortar built up in the way here and there. So I usually just give it a little wipe, just to kind of feather out all those little edges. It's just an old tiling grouting sponge that's too old for grouting anymore. I just keep one around for this. Just like so. Okay, so that's the bottom band. Now maybe I'll do the seal while I'm kneeling right here. So same idea, we just got to get some mortar on the wall. Get it pressed in nicely into the fleece. Get some notches in it. And there's kind of a thicker edge here and a thinner edge. The thick edge goes into the wall. Just kind of eyeball it on the center of your valve. Off, make sure your seal is down flat. Actually, I'll maybe do this patch on this screw too, since it's right here. Come on. So all your screws that are still exposed need to be covered. So I've just got these strips cut for that. Product under it. And I see I have one more screw up top here, just above the valve. While I'm kneeling here. Okay, so we're going to go up that corner, and that probably pretty much covers it, so you basically get the idea of what we're doing here. Now on the corners we got to obviously get some on both sides. The reason I like to start at the bottom is so that all the membrane layers are basically lapping the right way to shed water if you do get moisture behind your tiles. It can't get behind a lip. So the upper pieces or joints would be overlapped onto the bottom pieces if you have to do it in multiple pieces. I'll just go up that high. Just trying to speed the video up here a little bit. Which one was my corner? I do prefer to do as many pieces in one piece as I can, but okay, so with the corners it helps if you take your product, your Kerdi band, and just kind of fold it in half and get a crease started in it. Just makes it easier to go into the corner. Kind of get a bit of a corner started on it. Oops, I didn't. Forgot to V-trowel it. We're overlapping down here at least 2 inches. Push that back into the corner that you folded into it, where it'll sit real nice. Okay, we're getting it on there without any air bubbles. Kind of awkward because I'd normally get right in that corner, but I'm trying to stay back so you can see basically what's going on. If you get this mortar too thick, it's hard to get it to squeeze out from behind there. So, but if you get it too thin, it's not going to stay on the wall while you're working with it. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so I don't think there's any point in showing you anymore. So basically you've got to do that on all your seams. Use the Kerdi-Band. Once that's dried, then I'm basically ready to mark out my tiles and start tiling. Okay, so hopefully this video was helpful for you if you're thinking about using the Schluter Kerdi system on waterproofing your shower or your tub shower. Again, this is my method of doing it, and you may want to just consult their directions that they have online to be sure that you can get your full warranty from the steps that you do. But this is what I would do, and again, we're not sponsored by them or anything, but we will leave a link down below in the description so you can find some of these products there if you desire to check them out. As always, we appreciate you watching, and we'd really appreciate it if you give us the thumbs up if you like what we do here. And also, if you want to have any questions, you can post them on our forum. If you just have a comment, post them down below here in the comments. I try to check those every few days. And yeah, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next video.